Okay, let's take some of those ideas of 1 point perspective and kind of run with them. So before we put our horizon line or eye level line out and actually had a point that we were connecting the dots to, let's try to take those ideas that we now have practiced a little bit and know and kind of imagine some cubes in 1 point perspective without actually having our vanishing point. This is important. Illustrators, animators, you guys are constantly having to do this all the time to kind of build things, accurate cubes in your head into your drawings using these perspective ideas. So what do I mean by this? I'll kind of walk you through this and you guys can draw along with me. So let's just do a simple cube. So we start with a square, perfectly horizontal, perfectly vertical lines. Now let's make it look like I'm looking down on this cube at not too extreme of an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm looking down at this cube. So already I know my vanishing point is somewhere off in this direction, right? Now what I have to figure out is if that's the angle that I'm putting my top angle or top edge of my cube at, if that's the angle I'm going for, knowing the rules of perspective, that means the bottom angle needs to be steeper than that. So if that's my angle here, if this angle were exactly the same, it wouldn't quite look right. So real quick, before I go further, let me show you really fast what I mean because it's easier to see this stuff. So if this is the cube I start with, I see this all the time. I see a line that goes boop, and then I see a line that goes like this, and then like this. So what's wrong with those edges of my cube? Like right away I can tell that cube doesn't quite look right. It looks more like a trapezoid. And why is that the case? Because if you took these lines and actually drew them out, they're actually not coming to a point in the distance. They're not converging in the distance. They're actually getting away from each other. They're getting further apart in the distance. And that's the opposite of what you would want. You also don't want them to be perfectly parallel. So if this angle is going uphill in about this direction, you want this angle to be going even steeper. So if this is my angle here, this needs to be even steeper to know that eventually those two will come together and meet. Now, where will they meet? I don't know, somewhere way off here in the distance, and that's fine. Most of the time in your drawings, when you're drawing a still life, you won't be able to see where they're gonna meet. But as long as you know, as you can draw these in and know that all three are coming together in the background, you're in business. That's a good sign. So I like to just show those lines, the beginnings of them. Notice they're sketchy, they're not perfect, but I have faith that if I take, and you can check this with just 2 pencils, if I look at this angle and this one, yeah, they're starting to point toward each other as they go uphill, away from the box. And that's perfect. Now I know I can be pretty confident that those are at least close to right. They may not be perfect, if we took a ruler out, but they're close to where we want them to be. And now you've just drawn your first imagined box without actually even showing where the vanishing point would be, but you know that it's pretty accurate. And it looks way better than that one where those things are going off in all different directions, right? So let's try that in a couple different ways. So let's try one looking the other way. So the lines are going to skew in a different direction. And this time I'm going to make it kind of tall and skinny. So the name of the game here is let's just have a little variety just for kind of the fun of it. So we're going to do a tall and skinny, more rectangular like a shoebox. And now let's do the same thing kind of, but a little bit in reverse. So this time I'm going to say, let's make this a little bit more skewed. And we're definitely going uphill in this direction. So remember, you can just say, if this is going in this direction, I need this angle to keep getting sharper. So if that's coming back in this direction, I want this one to be pretty steep uphill. So that means they're both coming to a point somewhere up there in the distance, right? They're getting closer and closer together. That's a good sign. This one, I'm going to kind of split the difference. So think of this like the hand of a clock. It's going to slowly be angling more and more as you go down. Okay, not bad. I have faith that that's looking pretty decent for myself. And now let's just cap this one. I'll make this one a little bit smaller, thinner in depth. So flat line here, or almost flat, where it hits this diagonal. We go straight downhill, perfectly vertical or as perfect as we can get. Perfectly vertical. And then you've got yourself another box. This one's just a little taller and skinnier. All right, nice. So I think the goal for this drawing will be to, let's create like 10 of these boxes if we can. So, and change up your size of the box for sure, tall, skinny, maybe more square, maybe long and wide. And let's also try some from different angles. So what do I mean by that? Let's try one where we're looking up at the box. So here, I'm gonna make a nice kind of squarish box. Okay, but now let's make it look like we're looking from underneath. So how will we do that? We have to be able to see the bottom. So now we're gonna draw lines that come down from the edges. So let's have a line that's going, hold on one second. Just to make it easier, I'm gonna erase some of these lines so they don't get in our way. Okay, let's have a line that's going kind of steep downhill over here from the upper left corner. So if that's going pretty steep, I'm gonna just continue that line a little bit. This one, also steep, but it has to be coming toward that one, right? Always coming toward each other or together as they go away from the box. That's a good sign, and this one will kind of split the difference in this corner. Beautiful. So eventually those are gonna meet, who knows where, somewhere down here, off in the distance, right? So these boxes don't all have to be accurate to each other, they just have to be accurate each box to itself, if that makes sense. So this would never have the same vanishing point as this one, and that's okay. We're just making these up. But we want each one to feel believable. Obviously, this one doesn't, but so far, these do, and this one's on its way. So this will be a true vertical uphill. As close to a true vertical as we can make them. Flat line. Nice. All right, so now we've got a pretty accurate version of that box from underneath, looking up at it. Let's keep going with this. Keep trying these. Let's try one more just to show you maybe what a box would look like if we're going even steeper uphill in the distance. So we'll be looking down on this one, but we'll make it seem like it's going really steep. Okay, so this will be a little bit more of a rectangular box. Again, flat horizontals, true verticals. Okay, now let's make this one go up kind of steeply in the distance. So here we're going up in this direction. Here, because these have to meet, we're gonna go uphill like this. And this is one of those weird ones where if you're sitting square to a box, our vanishing point might be somewhere way up here, and that's okay. That just means that we're only gonna see two sides of this box. And sometimes that happens like on the still life table, so don't let that freak you out. As long as this angle is going in and this one's going in, at some point, we're gonna have a vanishing point, you know, right above the box, and that's okay. You can only see two sides. Now, it doesn't always look accurate, but that would be something like, let's see, let me see if I can get this to happen. Something like this, where you can almost see the side, but not quite. So it would be so much easier if it was here, but we're somewhere in this sort of a view. And that's, you know, that's a view that happens all the time. So keep that in mind. Occasionally you can only see side number 1 and 2, and that's okay. So test those out. Do 10 of these boxes if you can, and get a little bit of practice with them, because practice is definitely gonna make perfect with complicated things like boxes and perspective.